Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl here, Lemon, back with another video here at I Am Leminiscent, where astrology meets intuition. And today I'm just going to go ahead and cut into my own personal Saturn return story.
And I see it's gone to some astrology. Well, baby, I can see your face.
Okay, so I put together a collection of questions to ask myself to make sure that I'm giving you the full experience as much as possible when it comes to my Saturn return story. A Saturn return is around, the first one comes around 27 to 30, but every 30 years, approximately after that, it comes back around. And one of the greatest blessings is to have guaranteed two, but maybe even three Saturn returns. I'm hoping for four. So basically, this is when Saturn in your chart, it comes right back around to the exact point in the same sign that it was in when you were born. And this is significant in astrology because this is a turning point in our lives where we start to look back at the previous 28 and a half years and ask ourselves, what can we lose in our life, or what can we deconstruct ourselves from believing and using in our life in order for us to become better and start making better choices. And Saturn is the planet that rules discipline, is the taskmaster. So there's a lot of tasks that we get told that we need to do as we get into adulthood. But when you come to your first Saturn return, you start to look at life a bit differently because now you're the adult in control of your own life, but you still may be living on old rules and regulations that just don't fit who you actually are. You're still trying to maintain a vision or some type of ideal that was given to you from someone else who got it from someone else. So, the second question I have here is, when did you first become aware of your Saturn return approaching? I was into astrology in my early 20s. So when I came across doing my research of what a Saturn return was, I tried my best to prepare for it as much as possible. But honestly, there was really nothing I could have did to prepare for what was to come, at least not physically. I will say that mentally, emotionally, I was able to find people who were into the same thing that I was, who were at a distance, and the use of the internet definitely helped. I do got Jupiter in the 11th house, so that's where a lot of my emotional support to go through things that came from, is seeing other astrologers, other spiritual, healers online who were giving out the same information that I knew to be true, but I didn't see anyone else around me with the same mindset. So it gave me some sense of comfort to know, like, I'm not the only one. So I don't have to feel so alone anymore. But when I first became aware of it, it was doing my research in my mid 20s, and I said I was going to prepare for it. My Saturn return was in my fifth house, so, and Pluto was there at the same time. So it had been there since 2008. So I was really like going through a lot of changes when it came to figuring out what type of, joy or happiness I can actually have in my life, because it seemed like every time I tried to be happy or have fun, I was always on guard, or I had to be the more responsible one out of the whole group. I had to be the mother hen and look after people and protect people and take care of people. And it was never a time where I felt like I could actually relax, let my hair down, and just enjoy myself and have fun. I always felt like I had to protect myself from some unknown danger. But a lot of that information came from how I was raised. What did you expect your Saturn return to be like before it actually started? I expected my Saturn return to be, of course, a crucial part of my development, but I kind of expected to be like all mental. I wasn't really thinking about the emotional parts of it. And I am an air moon, so that kind of checks out. But I kind of thought of it as like, oh, I would just, learn a lesson and then master it and then I move on. Like, I thought it was gonna be that simple. Boy, did I learn. Okay, so what major life themes or challenges started showing up for you during your Saturn return? Okay, so Let me just verify the exact date. So Saturn was in Capricorn from December 19, 2017 until December 16th of 2020. And then it retrograded back briefly. During this time, Saturn moved in and out of Capricorn, briefly shifted into Aquarius from March to July of 2020. Then, yeah, it went back. And then in December, it shifted out. And then we had the conjunction with Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. Okay, so that was 3 years. Normally, Saturn returns are about 2.5 years, but this was a 3-year transit for us. And we were crying. We were crying out most of our lives about this, especially if you got Pluto Scorpio. We was crying out to people about how the world was really rigged in society, especially here in the great old corporation of US of A. Like, we were crying out like this can't be life. Like, this something is off about this. And then 2020 came, January, and then March, boom, everyone kind of was in the same feelings that we had majority of our lives, but definitely starting in 2017. Okay, that everything that took place in 2020, where it was like your whole life had to come to a halt and switch gears and trying to figure out what's going to work for you, what's not going to work for you. That's exactly how it felt for me. Okay, and this December 2017, I was living in Vegas. I was in a unstable relationship. I had my oldest daughter with me. She was 5 at the time. And I had just moved there the year before to stay permanently after going through court trying to leave to go there. And then I was at a point where it was just like I was at my wits' end about everything. I was ready to come back home. I was over being in Vegas. I felt like I was abandoned and, betrayed. I was constantly being lied to or meant to feel like a outcast and an outsider. And I was so used to it, of course, but most of it, I felt like when I thought about it, maybe I put myself in situations to be an outcast amongst people that I really didn't have to do that with. But when I was there, it felt like I didn't have a choice but to be the oddball. And I had to like really jump into my moon energy more than my sun energy because so much of my life would just crumbled around me and I didn't know what to do. Like I was literally felt like I was at a point where I just didn't know what the fuck to do. And that's normally not how I am. I always feel like I can figure everything out on my own. And if I can't, I have somebody I could talk to about it. But for the most part, I always felt like I could figure stuff out on my own. But it was like I didn't know what to do with my career. And November 2017 is when I started writing down like I wanted to make being an astrologer my occupation, my vocation, my occupation here. So I started thinking about ways on how I can express that in my career. But I wasn't focused on, getting a regular job because I had just quit my job that I had in March of 2017. And I kept having intrusive thoughts every time I would go into work. I would be worried about sitting close to the window. I'd be scared that I'm gonna fall out or I'm gonna jump out the window. And it was the sixth floor. So every time I would pull up to the building, he would tell me like, go ahead. I'll see you later. I'll be here. And I'll be so scared to get out the car. And I think he thought I was just playing or just being weird or something, but I literally had never felt that type of fear before where I would be at my desk crying because I wanted to go home and I didn't want to be on that floor. I wanted to get down. And he told me he would take care of everything. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and let the job go. You know what I'm saying? But all hell kind of opened up once I gave that power over to somebody else to take care of me, and I was not happy at all. And every time I tried to be happy, it was met with complete resistance to the point where I had to literally fight for my joy and happiness. So, yeah. Okay, it says, did you feel resistance to the lessons Saturn was trying to teach you? How did that show up in your life? Yeah, the day that my mother told me she wanted me out of her house, I had asked for a key. So I had to take 3 buses to get back and forth to work, and on my way there I would have to walk my daughter to school and then walk back and then to go down around the block to the bus stop and start there, and I take 3 buses down to towards the strip, near the strip where I went to work. And well, not so much near the strip, just near Sahara. And then I would take 3 buses back because I just started this job right after I lost my apartment, and I was trying to get help holding on to my apartment because I knew I was going to get this job, but I had to let it go. And everything I had, I let go as well. So by this time, like I'm working this job, everything is kind of stabilizing itself. And then I get left, me and my daughter got left on the street somewhere. And I don't know nobody other than my mother, in Vegas. So I get left on the street with my daughter and all of our stuff and just dropped off at a motel, a Seagull Suite. And then I go in there and I can't even stay because I don't have the necessary criteria to even get a place. But she didn't care. She just drove off and allowed me to figure it out. And that was the day I called my mama a bitch. I kicked her car and I called her a bitch. That was me resisting Saturn's lesson. And the next day, within a few hours, I did apologize because it's not her fault that I don't have my life figured out. Ultimately, it's not her fault that I didn't have my life figured out. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had the free will to do that. I just wasn't aware. I wasn't aware. And that did come from her, teaching me certain things that kept me locked in a certain perspective. Yes. But as an adult, I had the free will to change that if I wanted to. And this was the beginning processes of that. So it showed up like that. And it showed up with me not being able to come to her. Like I was going through situations. I was completely unstable the whole time during my Saturn return. I didn't have a home to call my own. I lost my home. So I said, what was the hardest moment of your Saturn return and how did you navigate it? So I would say the hardest moment of my Saturn return was being pregnant and being with somebody who was probably the most violent person I've ever been around my entire life. I couldn't sleep very well because I was always worried that something was going to happen to me. And I was always on guard. Like I was saying before, I didn't have very much trust in the relationship. That was the hardest part, is not being able to eat, pregnant, having to walk in the scorching heat to get my daughter back and forth to school while I was pregnant, not having a whole lot of money while I was pregnant, living somewhere that's not home. Have seen people follow me up and down the street trying to like plot on me. Like those was the hardest moments. Like those was the hardest moment. It wasn't his family. Like there was like this weird energy where it was like everything I did was weird. Everything I said was weird. Everything, I was being called crazy and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, I don't understand this. Like, I've never been in a position with groups of people where somebody is calling me crazy and weird from just being myself. Like, and it forced me to be comfortable with those parts of myself that nobody else would sit there and call me crazy or weird for, but for whatever reason, that's the, energy I was getting at the time. So that was kind of like my hardest moment, is being pregnant, not feeling safe, not knowing, not having nowhere to go, but just trying to kind of like stick it out and hope for the best and protect myself as much as possible. So that's kind of like how I navigated. I put all my energy into studying deeper into astrology, numerology, tarot, different spiritual systems, religion. Like that's kind of like my escape, was to learn something. And my son, when he was born, he had a Gemini rising. Were there any relationships, romantic, friendships, family that shifted or ended? I definitely had about a interesting relationship with my family because my mother said she would help, and then within that week, it was like she didn't want to help me no more when I first moved into my apartment, when I moved out there. Then it was him saying that he will always be there no matter what. But then when I had my son during, because he has Saturn Capricorn just like me, and his grandma, who also had Saturn Capricorn, she's a Capricorn. But when he was born, by the time he was born, I knew I didn't want to be in a relationship no more. And I was trying to figure out ways for us to salvage the relationship to be positive while we go through a separation. So I was asking a lot of questions, and the more questions I asked, or the more I digged into his psychology, the way he was trying to dig into mine, he became more and more violent. And he would tell me that when he saw me give birth to his son, that he was more in love with me, but he started to, actually like hit me, like physically abuse, domestic violence type shit. So that kind of shifted my perspective about myself, because I'm like, why am I even dealing with this situation? Like, I don't deserve to be in this at all. But for whatever reason, is I called it to me, or I resonated on this frequency somehow. So I need to get myself off this energy, this vibration, so I can get out. I met a good friend at the other job that I ended up getting later. And she actually became a saving grace for me and my children, because I was able to leave the situation with him and move in with her. It just was very topsy turvy, because I felt like I still kind of needed him to be, a father to his child, because he wanted to actually raise his child. I knew what, a lot of stuff that he went through when it came to children, his own children, or thinking children was his and they really wasn't. So I tried to keep that, you know, relationship between him and his children, like, because that's important to me, fifth house, right? To maintain those relationships. So I'm definitely during that my Saturn return. I'm at new people in my life that I still communicate with now. That was a significant part of me being able to blossom into my career field and push me to do more, be more, create more of myself. Okay. Did you experience any career or purpose related shifts? If so, what changed? Yes. The job that I took, I was working at a vendor for a very prominent company that has to do with, real estate and vacations. But I really enjoyed that position that I had, because for a long time I hated going to a 9 to 5 job. I hated working. It was like I just rather do something else. I just never knew what I wanted to do. But then when I figured out what I wanted to do, my perspective shifted, because now I'm not just going in here for everything. Now when I walk in here, I know I got something else bigger to balance my life out with and take care of me and my family. So being more communicative, doing emails and text messages and seeing people be in all parts of the world and keep communicating with them, that made me feel like, okay, this is like my thing, because I do want to travel. I do want to get out the country. I do want to go to other places. And I know that, being an astrologer or being someone who is into healing, that can get me into rooms that I've never been into, that can get me into cities I've never visited, that can get me an opportunity to travel the world and meet other people who do the same thing that I do, whether it's for the purpose of work or just in the spirit of, love, community, and, growing and learning new things. So it definitely shifted for me, because then around that time I started doing like live streams where I would do readings, or I would just start talking about random topics that would be on my mind. And I started doing YouTube videos at this time as well. When I started doing taxi, I was like, well, let me just record here since I'm waiting at the airport. Or like when I got home, I'm like, let me just go record in the bathroom, because I got an echo and my voice can be kind of soft sometimes. So it did kind of push me more into my purpose. And I started a blog, an astrology blog too, where I would post about like the energies that will be coming up. So it definitely helped me stay focused on what it is I wanted to do. What emotions did you go through? Was there a moment where it all clicked for you? The emotions that I went through, especially because I was pregnant in the middle of this, was very like, I felt, and Capricorn can be kind of melancholy. Like I felt really down and heavy and slow and just, I felt like I had the weight of the universe, not just the world, but the whole universe on my shoulders and my back. I felt like I was just like a used banana peel under a tire. Like I just felt like completely just useless and tired and aggravated, and I just wanted to, you know, just hold. My whole thing was I was just trying to hold on. Like I know something is going to break. I know something is going to crack. Just hold on. Just hold on. Just hold to it. And then I'll have moments where I'm happy and things are a bit more, peaceful. But those never lasted because it was like whenever I was happy, he would come and try to take it as a challenge to make me upset or angry. And eventually I caught on to that and it clicked for me that this is just a challenge to see if I'm going to allow someone to tell me who I am, to control my life, to manipulate me into doing or being someone that I'm truly not. And I could just honestly just be okay with being myself no matter what other people thought or felt about it, because I was really in a part in my life where it was like I was trying to be so careful because I kept losing and losing and losing and losing and losing everything that I had. And then I'm feeling emotional because I'm bringing my daughter through this as well. And even though she, Gemini, Sag, big three, she was really good with shifts and changes, even happening frequently or fast. She did very well with that, but it was just a simple fact that just because she is able to shift with the changes that I had to make for us doesn't mean necessarily that it was positive, because I never wanted to grow up in that type of energy, and I've seen my parents go at it before. I never wanted that to be repeated in my own life with my own children. So that definitely had me feeling very like sad and depressive because I wanted to figure out how to way to fix it. So she don't have to repeat this, because I don't want her to repeat this. And I don't have to keep subjecting myself to these types of situations. So eventually it got to the point where it just clicked for me. I had a solidite bracelet and or solidite, and it broke. And the day that it broke, he was trying to he wanted to play fight with me, and we were at my friend's condo at the time, and she wasn't there, but he was like, let's try to fight, let's fight. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, because I felt like if I got to a point where I got serious, I would probably like unalive him. And so I never wanted to go. I never wanted to be involved in that, because I don't want to be locked up out there. And one thing that I was told before was to look at my what happened with my sister as a lesson that I shouldn't have to learn myself. And I never forgot that either. I don't ever want to end up in a situation where I completely lose all my freedom to travel and to be able to do the things that I want, because I'm stuck somewhere where I can't escape. Like that's not cool for me, not even mentally, emotionally, so physically, absolutely not. But he told me that's what he wanted to do. And my usual way of responding to him when he would do stuff like that is to be like, just like, no, I don't want to do that. But that day I was like, you know what, let's go. What's up? What you about to do? And that's the day that my bracelet broke. And solidite is one of those crystals or stones, rather. It's a stone that's really good with is blue, the throat chakra. But it was like I wasn't scared anymore. Like I was at my wits end, and I was tired of just trying to be cool and keep peace. Like you done swung on me, you done busted my lip, you done had tackled me down to the ground. I had marks and stuff all over my body. I did not know I had bruises. Other people was pointing out to me. Like I was at a point, like what, let's just handle this right now. Let's go. Let's go. Even though he was trying to play fight and all that stuff, I was at my limit and I didn't give a fuck no more. And that's when it clicked for me. Like, this not even real. I stopped playing into the bullshit. Like going back and forth about playing with my mind. Like, we together, no, we not together. We together, no, we not together. And then the last time he told me like we not together, da 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 da. I said okay. So then when he called to question me about it, I said, remember, we're not together. Like, I started using what was given to me to tear me down to build me up. Like, that's when it clicked that day. And I didn't have to go to jail. Did you have a mentor, spiritual practice, or coping mechanism that helped you through it? Yeah, sis definitely helped me through it, because when I got to her home, I felt like a broken mirror and a lot of shattered pieces that I was trying to put back together. Even after that, we still had our moments where we got into it, but it was like getting more into a meditative space, looking into ATR, on top of me already doing the necessary research for astrology and chart readings and stuff like that. And I started doing more tarot readings as well, because I finally went and got my own deck, and then she gifted me a deck as well. So those were the things that kind of kept me balanced. That Pisces Virgo axis, or my 12th house 6th house axis, that's what kind of kept me grounded during the whole process. Okay, so if you could describe your Saturn return in one word, what would it be? Revolutionary. That's the best word I could think, is revolutionary, because I feel like I became a totally different person that I always knew that I was, but everyone else didn't know, or people who didn't really have a good idea about who I was, or they didn't really pay that close enough attention to me, didn't realize it. But I felt like I was able to finally just be myself and love myself. And I felt like Saturn in the 5th house, and then having multiple Capricorn placement in the 5th house, was teaching me to just love myself no matter what, no matter how poor I looked, no matter how, because even after that, going into 2020, like, I still didn't have my own home. I'm sharing space with family, and I feel overlooked, and I'm being put in positions that make me uncomfortable, and I'm trying to keep the peace because I don't want to lose my home. I don't want to lose a place where I can sleep and be comfortable. I don't want to go out in the street. And I felt like I spent my entire Saturn return avoiding it, when I knew subconsciously, I knew I had to get to that place where I had to give up every single material part that was connected to me. I had to. I knew I had to, and I kept running from it. But eventually in 2020, I sent my daughter to live with her father. I sent my son to live with his father. I have nothing but the clothes on my back and my computer that my friend gave me, my MacBook, and my cards. That was it. And I went to Georgia. I stayed in an emergency shelter, a 13-hour emergency shelter, for 21 days. And every day, I gave myself one day to not have any agenda whatsoever. And I felt like I was just all over the place, and I didn't know where I was going. And it was making me frustrated because I was hungry. I know I wasn't eating anything. I was on a fast since I had left home. And then I said, okay, that's one day too many that I didn't have an agenda for myself. So every day before I went to sleep, I knew exactly what I was doing the next day. And that was all she wrote. And I didn't let the circumstances get me down or make me feel badly about myself, because I felt like I fell from grace during that Leo Aquarius nodal reversal I had. I felt like I fell from grace, and I was doing 2017 as well. What did Saturn teach you about yourself that you didn't see before? That I'm worth more than my looks. I'm worth more than how I can make somebody else feel. I'm worth more than, what someone else wants to add to my life, or claim they want to add to my. I'm more than a relationship girl. I'm more than all of that. Like, Saturn really taught me to love. I really deserve to love myself more. I needed to love myself more. That was the biggest lesson I could ever give myself, was to invest in me more than anything and anybody else. In the moments where I did not do that, I kind of like saw that lesson blow up in my face. So Saturn taught me to be okay with loving on myself, because I knew when I gave myself that much love and attention, it made other people uncomfortable. So I would try to hide it or dim my light to make other people comfortable. And I can't do that anymore. How do you feel different now compared to before your Saturn return started? I feel like a whole new person. I feel like I get to be myself now and I don't have nobody else's rules holding me back anymore. What advice would you give to someone who is approaching their Saturn return? Be open to experiencing whatever direction that you're being guided to. Yeah, just be open to receiving the necessary experiences that you need, because it's going to help you grow and teach you more about who you truly are versus trying to keep you comfortable in a situation or in a lifestyle that's really not you or not you anymore. How can someone work with their Saturn return instead of resisting it? One way you can work with your Saturn return instead of resisting it is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's pretty much it. The things that it was very uncomfortable for me to quit that job. It was very uncomfortable to keep couch surfing with my daughter with people I didn't even know from a can of paint, but ended up being family. It was very hard to return home feeling like I had my tail tucked between my legs. It was very uncomfortable to be put out yet again. It was very uncomfortable to be lied to and evicted with my son and lose everything and not even know what the hell was going on because I trusted somebody that was family. So be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because it's not a sign of error. It's not a sign that something's going wrong. It's just a sign that you are learning something about yourself that you need to know that you probably was not aware of before. Okay. Do you think Saturn, how do you believe Saturn returns shape us on a soul level? On a soul level, I feel like Saturn returns help you retrieve the wisdom that you were always destined to have, or maybe even been aware of, but you actually get to put them to use for real now. Because it's a lot of proverbs and things that my parents used to say. It's a lot of proverbs and stuff that my parents used to say that kind of clicked for me, but I was using it in a way to empower me instead of living the past. So it definitely, on a soul level, it helps you kind of retrieve that wisdom back that you came here with, that has been in the playing in the background of your mind, comes to the forefront so you can live differently and openly as your true self. Do you think Saturn's lessons are karmic? Were there past life patterns or deep cycles you had to break? Absolutely. I think Saturn's lessons are karmic because, like I was saying before, I saw my parents fighting on the porch. You know what I'm saying? My mother stayed with her cousins and stuff when I was going through my first Saturn square when I was 7 years old. My mother went through a whole situation with her own sons where we didn't all live together as her children, and she had to, separate. She had to give us up. We was with our father, they was with their father. We even went through foster care even before that point. So, and then my father having multiple children with multiple people as well, and not, having everybody with one person, like that's typical, like all American family where you're married and you have kids and you stay in the whole house for 50 years, and your kids grow up and then they come back and married and have, like, none of that ever took place in my family, and it's not something that I've seen on a regular basis. So I felt like Saturn's lessons were karmic, coming from my fifth house, which is about love affairs and children, creativity, and joy and fun, and a lot of things that I used to do to have fun when I was in my early 20s. Like now, I don't even really dig into, or like, I don't do that stuff anymore. And I never had the time when I was younger to do anything creative, like just me and art. I never had a chance to do that. So I feel like the lessons are karmic because it is teaching you to get rid of old patterns that were passed down to you, whether you wanted it to be passed down to you or not. just accept the fact that it happened and now you can do something about it. You can't go back and change anything. It's not meant for you to. It's for you to look at it, learn the lesson, and move on. Yeah, there were definitely some past life patterns when it comes to like the whole thing with children, domestic violence, relationships. And those are the cycles I felt like I needed to break the most. I felt like I was very too hot to trot. And I should have, I could have taken things a lot slower with people that I had children with when I first met them instead of wanting that loving relationship so badly because I felt like I never really received the adequate amount of attention that I felt like I deserved. So instead of me giving it to me, which I learned on my journey, I was expecting to get that from other people. And I learned a very valuable lesson about how people can lust after you and try to control and manipulate just because you want to be loved so desperately, and you'll stick through anything to get that love, and that's not what love is or what love is truly about. How do you now view responsibility, discipline, long-term goals after experiencing this? I love responsibility. I love responsibility. I love discipline. I love my long-term goals. Like I really, really like respect it. Like I respect it so much now to the point where I wanted to figure out how I can unlock my own madness from feeling like, with Aquarius 6th house, like I know that I'm meant to work for myself or be my own, create my own job, but it was really hard to. Okay. So I learned that responsibility is something to be glad about because that means you got something to do. And if you got something to do, you got something to respond to, it keeps you in line. It keeps you focused on what's most important priorities. When it comes to discipline, it was very hard to get myself disciplined when it came to creating a business and sticking with a regimen, a routine to keep me healthy. I've always been a very picky eater where I paid attention to what's healthy, what's not healthy. I loved exercise and things like that. So that wasn't really the issue. The issue was to continue to separate myself from repeating things with other people that kept me distracted and fixated on a person versus fixated on my long-term goals. So that was a special lesson as well, and I learned that through heartbreak. Heartbreak. Long-term goals, I thrive in them now. I give myself, goals to accomplish and to do, and I have several long-term goals that I'm working on right now. And again, it helps keep me prioritize on what's most important to what's least important. So when situations come up where people, want to hit my phone, they want to hang out, um, they want to, dangle, or they people just want to just be in my face. And it's nothing wrong with being social. It's not, but it's like if the goal or the mindset, the perspective on life isn't the same, it's kind of like it feels like I'm just being sucked dry because I don't want to be present. So I'm not going to keep putting myself in situations or hanging around people that don't reflect back to me who I am. Family, friends, classmates, all that included. I don't want to hang around men or be around or with a man. And what I do for work is not respected, or what I do is being exploited for their personal gain. Like I don't want to be in relationships with people like that closely. So, yeah, perspective and priorities. Number 1. In what ways do you now embody more of your true self because of your Saturn return? I don't give a fuck. Like I know I had levels of not giving a fuck before, but with the responsibility, discipline, and long term goals, it's like that's key now. That's way key, especially after the last couple of years I had, which was I felt like an extension of my Saturn return because it's like, oh, you didn't learn. Let's take you through this one more time, and I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I am good, honey. I'm good. I learned my lesson. I'm fine. I am good. Responsibility and discipline first. I learned it. Okay. I learned it. So my true self, and most of that, my Saturn return too had a lot to do with being okay with being alone, loving myself while I'm by myself with myself, loving myself with myself, and nobody is around. I don't have to perform. I could just be me. That's how I found my true self, in isolation. And then I started realizing how much I loved being isolated and how much I love being in my own energy. And it made it easier from when I went out to determine, okay, that's not my energy, that's their energy. That's not me, that's them. And it's not that I didn't learn from those people or those situations. It was just like, yeah, that's you know. And it's like now the inner voice is louder because I've spent so much time with myself now that I didn't have before. Up until 2020, December of 2022, I've always been around somebody. And I felt like I could never truly be the true self that I was because it was always some type of friction where it's like, well, you've always been this way. You can't change now. And it's like, I could change anytime. I could change 5 minutes ago. I could change right now. I could change tonight. Like I could take a nap and be different when I wake up. Like there's no cap on that. You can't control that. So I couldn't wait to be somewhere by myself alone. And it was hard at first, but then I got comfortable with it. You know what I'm saying? I became more of my true self, and who I am when I'm alone is who I really want to be. So now I get to take that with me everywhere I go now because when I come back home, it's just me again. So it ain't shit to go somewhere else and exude that same energy now versus me constantly feeling in a state of, oh my God, like I can't hide or I can't just take a break. I'm constantly in the spotlight and it's like, ugh, I need a break. Like when those singers or magicians, like, they canceled their show because of dehydration. They hooked up to an IV. They can't come on tonight. That's exactly how I always felt, but I still had to get on stage and perform. So eliminating all of that and just me, like maintaining the responsibilities and the discipline and the goals to make to keep this has been my ultimate gratitude to Saturn. Like when I tell you we locked in, we locked in. You know what I'm saying? We locked in. Okay. Last one. What would you say to someone who is currently feeling lost in their Saturn return? Be lost. Be okay with being lost. Like Moana too. Allow yourself to be lost, especially in Saturn and Pisces. Allow yourself to get lost. Be lost. It's okay. Because being lost means you're not tied to anything. You're not forced to be anything. You can just let life show you who you are and learn from what you see. Listen to your inner voice because it'll get louder the more you listen to it. It'll get louder. But be okay with being lost because right now you probably can't see the material working out for you, but it is. You may, and I had intrusive thoughts, I was on the brink of suicidal thoughts, and I quit my job, and then I felt better. But then I didn't feel better anymore because the man that I was with was torturing me about that decision because he was telling me about what everybody in his family thought about me quitting my job. And then I didn't have a place to live because I didn't have a job to pay my rent, and my daddy could only give me so much money to pay my rent. And the man that I was with told me he would do it, and he never did. So then I got evicted, and then I lost everything that was given to me. And then I had to go back and live with the person who didn't want me to be there and tell me that they didn't have to show me love. And then they put me out right when I was at the brink of having more than enough money to either give me a car or move somewhere else. And I had to spend all that money to couch surf in somebody's house that I do not know and felt like didn't really like me. And then to deal with that same man going to sleep with somebody else behind my back and then telling me we're not together only to turn around and tell me that we are together and we're going to live together because then I could pay the rent for where I was at and get another job, but he never did everything he said he was going to do. And then when I found out I was pregnant, I also found out somebody else was pregnant too with twins. And then I was trying to leave. He told me he wouldn't let me go. And then I'm out here pregnant as hell, walking in the hot, burning that sun in the desert, all trying to keep a smile on my face because my daughter is the most happiest person and cheerful person ever, which also is an indication of hiding dark emotions. Only to turn around and live with this man and his baby mama and feel like they're fucking each other, only to find out they actually did fuck each other behind my back. To then go and have that baby go back to the house and then move back into a place I don't want to be before I finally found some type of sanctuary and a friend, only to finally get the reprieve of having my daughter finally go live with her father and my son with his father while I go work a job tirelessly, and I'm still being chained to this idea of what he was trying to say. According to him, his family thought I was crazy and weird. I couldn't even sleep. He wouldn't let me sleep. So I was sleep deprived. And then I start noticing when I'm sleep deprived, I start to lose my mind and I go crazy. So I had to start saying no, even though he tried to take it out as me being a bad mother and not want to be around my son when I was really just tired as fuck from working different times of the day, getting up early, taking a bus to the strip, having to walk through Naked City, which is a very dangerous place to be, just to get to work by myself, just to make some type of money, just to come home and live with family and then be again doused in this energy of being someone's nanny or babysitter when I really wanted to get the fuck out and have my own house for once. To get a job and have to get fired because I can't come on time because the support that I thought I had is not supporting me very well. But I'm supporting them with every fucking thing that I can. Only to be so supportive that I get put out and have to go somewhere else. And I think I'm finally free. But I can't go to work, can't get child care. So I never got the job that I was supposed to get. To the point where I finally get evicted out of an apartment that was never mine, that I was told I was gonna be able to stay with my family in, but he left, took the keys while I was asleep off my key ring. So my dad is trying to get me to get into these shelters in the city where everybody and their granny is in a shelter because nobody had money to pay for anything during 2020. So I just had to go, fly my son to live with his father and cover him and protect him and fly my ass back home and then fly to Georgia and live in an emergency shelter because that was the only place that I could find to live where I didn't have to be stuck with people who didn't want me there. Only to go down there and meet beautiful people, reconnect with awesome people, and revitalize my energy in a way that was so beautiful and so supportive and so helpful. Even on the day of the longest night of the year, I was sleeping outside and I felt the most free I've ever been. Lost. Be lost. Allow yourself to be lost. So many blessings, and allowing yourself to just surrender to the Most High, because that's all Saturn is trying to get you to do is just surrender. Surrender what you think you know for what you deserve instead. I threw my hands up and said, you know what? I just don't know anymore. I tried to do everything I thought I could do. I tried to do everything I thought was right. I tried to do everything that I thought would be good, and nothing worked out. I give up. Most High, angel guides, spiritual guides, ancestors who are benevolent and strong and here for my bequest to be fulfilled. Y'all take over. Because I'm done. Done. And that was the end of 2020. I became a solopreneur during Lyft. Started loving on myself a little bit more. Started speaking up for myself a lot more. Got everything that I needed and deserved. Had to take a big loss. A couple big losses. But in the end, I got where I needed to go through all of that. And people look at me and think I'm 19 years old. I ain't been through shit. Allow yourself to be lost. Because you'll always find yourself anyway. That's the whole point. All right. So I'm going to end it there. That was the easiest way I could do my Saturn Return vlog and not get lost in the process of myself. But yes, do your spiritual rituals, do your writing, do your vlogging, do your therapy. Therapy really helped me as well. Having a therapist helped me, counseling helped me. Allow yourself to be lost, but use the tools available, the wisdom available to you to stay true to yourself throughout the duration of your Saturn return. Okay. So if you like this video, if this video was helpful, make sure you thumbs up this video, leave a comment below talking about your Saturn return. If you're going through it right now, if you already been through it and survived, or if you're kind of nervous going into it, connect, reconnect. You know what I'm saying? But remember, the universe is always guiding you. So stay aligned, stay radiant, and until next time.